Look at the world around you right now. People are exhausted. They are tired not from physical labor, but from psychological warfare. Every single day, you wake up and hand over the keys to your emotional state to a world that doesn't care about your peace. A notification pops up on your phone, and your heart rate spikes. Someone leaves a critical comment, and your entire mood for the afternoon is ruined. An outcome doesn't go according to your exact plan, and you spend days spiraling into anxiety, replay scenarios in your head, asking, "Why did this happen to me?" You are reacting to everything, all the time, without realizing it. You have built an invisible prison, and the bars of this prison are made of emotional attachment. Attachment to how people view you. Attachment to outcomes you cannot guarantee. Attachment to the past, which cannot be changed, and attachment to the future, which does not yet exist. Over 2,000 years ago, during the height of the Roman Empire, a man named Marcus Aurelius sat in his military tent on the freezing northern border. He was the most powerful human being on earth. He had absolute command over armies, wealth, and land. Yet, when he wrote to himself in his private journal, a journal we now know as Meditations, he did not write about power or conquering nations. He wrote this simple, profound truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Notice what the emperor did not say. He did not say you have power over the economy, over the weather, over disease, or over the actions of other people. He said you have power over your mind. This is the foundational pillar of Stoic detachments. Now, let's clear a major misconception immediately. When most people hear the word detachment, they think of coldness. They imagine a person with a stone face who doesn't love anyone, doesn't care about success, and lives like an emotionless robot. That is not Stoicism. That is apathy. True Stoic detachment is not about caring less. It is about caring wisely. It is the absolute mastery over what you allow to enter your mental sanctuary. It is the ability to stand in the middle of a hurricane, feel the wind rushing past you, and remain completely still on the inside. By the time you finish watching this masterclass, you will not just understand detachment intellectually. You will possess a complete psychological framework to detach from outcome, release anxiety, and reclaim your inner sovereignty. If you want to master detachment, you must master the core operating system of Stoic philosophy. It is a concept known as the dichotomy of control. To understand this, we must look at Epictetus. Unlike Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus was not born an emperor. He was born a slave. He spent the early part of his life in chains, under the absolute rule of a brutal master who eventually broke his leg, leaving him with a permanent limp. If anyone had a reason to feel helpless, bitter, and emotionally enslaved to circumstance, it was Epictetus. Yet, Epictetus discovered a mental key that made him freer than the Roman masters who owned him. He realized that the entire universe can be divided into two strict categories. Things are up to us. Things are not up to us. Let's break this down to its absolute essence. What is up to you? Your opinions, your intentions, your desires, your effort, your character, and most importantly, your response to external stimuli. That is it. That is your entire domain of power. What is not up to you? Everything else. The opinions of others. Whether people like you or hate you. The economy. The outcome of your efforts. The weather. The past. The future. And the eventual death of everything you love. Here is where human suffering is born. Suffering occurs when you invest your emotional well-being into Category 2. Think about how you live your life. When you launch a venture, record a video, apply for a position, or enter a relationship, where is your mind focused? If you're attached, your mind is hyper-focused on the result. Will they accept me? Will this succeed? What if I fail? What if they leave? Notice that every single one of those thoughts belongs to Category 2. You're tying your happiness to something you do not own. You are putting your neck on the chopping block and handing the blade to a random chance. The Stoic flips this entire dynamic. When a Stoic shoots an arrow from a bow, they focus entirely on what is within their control. The tension of the string, the alignment of their posture, the breath in their lungs, and the aim of the tip. They execute with 100% devotion and excellence. But the moment the arrow leaves the string, the Stoic detaches. A sudden gust of wind can blow the arrow off course. A bird can fly in front of it. The target can move. The Stoic knows that the flight of the arrow is no longer their business. If it hits the target, excellent. If it misses, they do not weep, because their self-worth was never tied to the target. It was tied to the skill and virtue of the release. When you practice Stoic detachment, you don't stop trying. You actually work harder and with sharper focus, because your energy is no longer drained by constant worry about the outcome. Why do we cling so desperately to things, status, and people? Why does betrayal cut so deep? And why does sudden loss break our sanity? Because we live under a grand, dangerous delusion, the illusion of permanence. Subconsciously, we believe that the good times will last forever. We believe our health is guaranteed, our wealth is secure, and the people we love will always be there when we wake up tomorrow. So when reality strikes, when a relationship ends, when money disappears, when health fails, we are shattered. Not just by the event itself, but by the shock of the event. The Stoic philosopher Seneca saw this weakness in human psychology and proposed a radical, uncomfortable mental exercise. It is called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, before the sun rose, Seneca would sit in quiet contemplation and mentally rehearse worst-case scenarios. He did not do this out of depression or anxiety. He did it to strip reality of its power to shock him. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Waking up every day and briefly reminding yourself, the job I have today could be gone tomorrow. The person I love is mortal and could be taken from me. The plans I made for this afternoon could be completely disrupted by events outside my control. To a modern society addicted to blind positivity, this sounds morbid. But look at what actually happens to your mind when you practice this. First, your gratitude skyrockets. When you stop assuming that your loved ones or your health will be here tomorrow, you suddenly value them intensely right now. You stop arguing over trivial things. You hug your child tighter. You appreciate a simple cup of coffee. Gratitude and attachment cannot coexist. Attachment takes things for granted. Detachment treats every moment as a precious, temporary gift on loan from the universe. Second, your fear dissolves. Anxiety is caused by the unknown. When you mentally walk through the worst-case scenario and realize that even if you lose your wealth, your status, or your comfort, your character and mind remain intact, the fear loses its hold over you. You realize a fundamental truth. Nothing in this physical world belongs to you. Your body, your money, your reputation, your home, they're all borrowed. They are on loan to you from nature. When it is time for nature to take them back, the attached person screams and fights, feeling robbed. The Stoic steps back, offers a quiet thank you for the time they had with it, and lets it go without bitterness. How do you react when everything goes wrong? When plans collapse, promises are broken, or life deals you an unexpected blow? The average person collapses under the weight of resentment. They spend months, sometimes years, complaining about the unfairness of life. They stay attached to a past that no longer exists, wishing things had turned out differently. The Stoics developed a mental stance that turns this entire dynamic on its head. Nietzsche later called it Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. Notice the word, not just tolerance of fate, not passive resignation, love of fate. Epictetus captured this mindset perfectly when he wrote, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens the way it happens. Then you will be happy." Detachment with Amor Fati means you stop fighting reality. When a disaster strikes, you don't waste a single calorie of energy wishing it didn't happen. You accept it instantly as the raw material for your growth. Think of a fire. When you throw a bucket of water on a small flame, it dies. But when a fire is intense, throwing fuel, debris, or obstacle into it only makes it burn hotter and brighter. You are meant to be the fire. If someone betrays you, It is fuel to strengthen your discernment. If you face financial loss, it is fuel to test your resourcefulness and discipline. If you suffer a physical setback, it is fuel to build mental fortitude. When you practice Stoic detachment, nothing can defeat you because every obstacle is automatically transformed into lesson, wisdom, and power. How does emotional attachment actually begin? It starts with a single, unguarded moment in your mind. The Stoics introduced a concept called the discipline of assent. Every single second, your environment throws impressions at you. Someone speaks to you in a rude tone. You read a shocking headline. A negative thought crosses your mind about your future. These initial impressions are completely automatic. You cannot stop them. But Stoicism teaches that an impression is not a reality. It is merely a suggestion. Between the event and your emotional response, there's a tiny gap. In that gap lies your ultimate freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, remove the judgment, and the hurt is removed. Remove, I have been hurt, and the hurt itself disappears. When someone insults you, the raw event is simply sound waves traveling through the air. That is the objective truth. The pain only happens when your mind adds a judgment. This person disrespected me, and that is terrible. The master of detachment stands as a strict guard at the door of their mind. When a thought or event arrives, they inspect its credentials before letting it in. Is this within my control? If no, detach. Is this a fact, or is it my interpretation? Strip away the emotion and look at the raw facts. Do you need to give this my energy right now? By withholding your assent, your emotional agreement, to toxic thoughts, you render outside events completely powerless to disturb your peace. Philosophy that stays in books is useless. Detachment is a physical daily discipline. Here are 4 daily rituals you can begin practicing today to build an unshakable mind. 1. The 5-second pause. Whenever you receive bad news, a harsh text, or face a frustrating delay, do not react immediately. Force yourself to pause for 5 seconds. Take 1 deep, conscious breath. This simple physical action shifts your brain from the reactive amygdala to the rational prefrontal cortex. 2. Voluntary hardship. Attachment thrives on luxury and comfort. Once a week, deliberately practice discomfort. Take a cold shower. Fast for a meal. Sleep without a pillow. Walk instead of driving. By proving to yourself that you can endure discomfort, you shatter the fear of losing comfort. 3. Objective journaling. Every evening, write down the things that triggered you during the day. Rewrite them without any emotional language. Instead of writing, my project was ruined by an incompetent teammate, write, the project deadline was missed due to incomplete tasks. I need to adjust my strategy. 4. Open-handed living. Hold everything in your life with an open palm. Love your family deeply. Enjoy your success. Use your possessions, but never wrap your fingers around them so tightly that taking them away breaks your hand. Enjoy everything as temporary. Imagine waking up tomorrow as a person who has mastered Stoic detachment. Look at how your life transforms. You no longer lie awake at night panicking over scenarios that haven't happened. You no longer seek approval from people whose values you don't even respect. You no longer crash when you fail, nor do you become arrogant when you win. You move through the world with a quiet, calm authority. When storms hit, and they will hit, others lose their minds, looking for someone to blame. But you remain grounded. You assess the situation, control your judgment, focus on your immediate action, and adapt. You become like the mountain. The winds howl around the mountain. Thunder crashes against its peaks. Snow covers its slopes. But the mountain does not debate the storm. It does not rage against the rain. It stands firm, rooted deep within the earth, knowing that the storm will eventually pass, leaving the peak untouched. Mastering detachment is not about escaping life. It is about engaging with life at the highest possible level without losing yourself in the process. You own your mind. You own your response. You own your destiny. Detach from the noise. Master yourself, and let the world adjust to you. Imagine a fortress so well constructed, so deeply rooted in solid rock, that no army on earth, no matter how vast or aggressive, can pierce its walls. This fortress is not made of brick or iron. It exists entirely inside your mind. Every single day, the world tries to breach your peace. People bring their drama, their rage, their insecurities, and their unmet expectations to your doorstep. If you do not have an inner citadel, you let every single bad actor walk straight into your mind, light fires in your thoughts, and steal your inner tranquility. When you master Stoic detachment, you erect impenetrable walls around your soul. Notice what happens when an insult or bad news reaches the gates of your fortress. You do not panic. You stand at the wall, look down at the event, and ask, does this have the power to destroy my character? Does this force me to lose my integrity? If the answer is no, then the event must remain outside the gates. You can observe chaos without taking chaos into your heart. You can empathize with someone's pain without adopting their panic. You can handle a crisis with calm, clinical precision because your inner sanctuary remains completely untouched. Retreat into your inner citadel whenever the world gets too loud. It is always there, waiting for you. There is one ultimate truth that instantly dissolves trivial anxiety, petty arguments, and needy attachments. It is the ultimate equalizer of human history. Memento mori. Remember that you must die. We spend our lives clinging to tiny things as if we will live for 1,000 years. We stress for weeks over an awkward social interaction. We hold grudges against family members for years over small misunderstandings. We lie awake at night agonizing over money, status, and prestige. Step back for a moment and look at the cosmic scale of your life. In 100 years from today, every single person reading this, every critic who judged you, every boss who stressed you, and every person whose approval you sought will be dust under the earth. Everything you built, every piece of drama you wept over, will be a forgotten whisper in the wind. Seneca famously wrote, "You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you." Memento mori is not a depressing thought. It is the most liberating truth in existence. When you keep death as your daily companion, detachment becomes effortless. How can you be attached to money when you cannot take a single cent with you? How can you stay attached to an insult when the person who spoke it will soon vanish from time? When you realize your time on this planet is short and fleeting, you stop wasting your precious energy on things that do not matter. You detach from vanity, ego, and outcome, and you attach only to living a life of virtue, presence, and purpose right now. It is easy to practice detachment when sitting in a quiet room, reading philosophy. It is easy to be peaceful when you are alone. The real test of your Stoic practice begins the moment you step out into the world. Tomorrow morning, you will walk out your door or open your phone, and reality will test you immediately. Someone will cut you off in traffic. Someone will send a rude email. A plan you worked hard on will encounter a sudden obstacle. When this happens, do not see it as a misfortune. See it as your arena. The Stoic does not run away from society to live in a cave on top of a mountain. True philosophy is meant to be tested in the dirt, noise, and friction of everyday life. When a friction comes, smile to yourself. Remember that this is the moment you trained for. This is where you practice the 5-second pause. This is where you activate the discipline of ascent. This is where you guard your inner citadel. You're no longer a passive leaf blown around by the winds of circumstance. You are the master of your internal kingdom. Detach from the need for external chaos to settle before you feel peace. Create the peace within yourself first, and bring that calm into every room you enter. Stand tall, breathe deeply, and face the world with an unshakable mind. If you're ready to build an unstoppable mindset, like this video and subscribe to Amor Fati.